Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at what conventions look like in writing. The purpose of writing, regardless of what type of writing that it is, if it's fiction or nonfiction, if it's creative writing like poetry or anything else, is for the writer to communicate ideas to the reader. To be effective at this, a writer needs to have a strong sense of conventions and use of it, so that there aren't any distractions from errors. Let's take a look at some examples. This is an example here of a piece that uses strong conventions. Throughout history, no symbol has been as important to the heritage and image of America as the cowboy. Although cowboys were only economically necessary for a few short decades, the symbolism and values they left have helped define America. The greatest significance that the cowboy brings to our country is the sense of personal freedom. As well, the cowboy embodied the masculine image of a tough, rugged outdoorsman who could handle any problem with grit and style. So you'll notice here in this piece that we have all of our words are correctly spelled. We have our punctuation in the correct places, and that helps us to pace the writing so that it's spoken correctly. We have correct use of capitalization, of sentences, and of the entire paragraph. It creates strong conventions which allow us to focus in on the ideas and not get distracted by errors. Let's take a look at another example here. Recycling is a topic that tends to bore people half to sleep. There's just no good way to make brown glass and green glass sound cool. Interestingly, no matter how dull that a presentation about how to put what items into what bins sounds like a snoozer, without recycling, life is going to get much, much worse for us. Here's the deal. We are running out of resources. Oil is running low, water is running low, food is running low, and all of these resources are absolutely necessary to continue our way of life in the decades to come. So, finding a way to convince people that preserving the resources we already have is important and needs to become an exciting topic. So we'll notice here again we have the strong use of conventions. We have spelling, capitalization, punctuation, sentences and paragraphing, all used correctly. As well, our grammar and mechanics are used correctly throughout the entire piece. This allows us to focus in on the ideas that are presented here. Now, the opposite may be true as well. We can take a look at examples of weak conventions so that we can see how distracting that it is to have mistakes and how they can take us away from those ideas as we're reading. An ineffective writer may or may not realize that messy writing that's filled with errors is very distracting and very uninteresting to the reader. Let's take a look at this example here. Throughout history, no symbol has been as important to the heritage and image of America as the cowboy, although cowboys, lol, were only economically necessary for a few short decades. The symbolism and values they left have helped define America. By the way, the greatest significance that the cowboy brings to our country is the sense of personal freedom, lol, ses. Well, the cowboy embodied the masculine image of a tough, rugged outdoorsman who could handle any problem with grit and style by. So we can see here that we are missing our capitalization. We have a few spelling errors. We have a use of slang. We have some abbreviations. We are lacking all of our punctuation here. We have some grammatical errors. And you can see how that made the reading very different. As a reader, as you're going through, you get stuck on those errors and you stay there instead of being able to focus in on the ideas. Not such a good experience. Unfortunately, this is the kind of email that I receive fairly frequently. Miss, I forgot my homework. Can you fix it and tell me what you want to do, please? So, believe it or not, I would say that I receive probably 10 emails very similar to this one per week. Almost impossible to read, kind of ridiculous that it was written like this in the first place because it doesn't have anything that's written correctly here. It's very distracting, it's very hard to understand, and it's impossible for me as a reader to focus in on the ideas that are included here because there are so many mistakes. So when you're looking at conventions, these are specifically the items that you want to look for: spelling, grammar, punctuation, capitalization, and paragraphing. And within paragraphing, that also includes sentences too. Make sure that you're correcting for all of these items before you're submitting any piece of writing, whether it's in an email or it's an essay or anything else. So what should you do with conventions? If you don't understand the conventions of English, make sure that you spend some time learning them. I know that they're not easy and I know that they take time. So take some time and learn them piece by piece. Learn them and use them correctly. Even when you're texting a friend or even when you're sending out an email, push yourself to always use English correctly. That can help get you into a really good habit of understanding the conventions of English. Make sure that any time that you do writing, that you're editing and revising for conventions as well. Learning the conventions of English can be difficult, but it's very important to be able to get your ideas across. Make sure that you're using the conventions correctly all of the time, even if you're texting or emailing just a friend. And make sure that you're always editing and revising in your own writing for your conventions. At this point, what you should know and be able to do is to know what conventions in writing are, be able to create and use conventions, and understand ways to improve upon conventions. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Good luck with your writing.